Do I get a meal if I sing well? Whispered Ari Johnson, clutching a cracked ukulele she'd found in a dumpster. The 9-year-old stood barefoot backstage at Stars of Tomorrow, the biggest TV talent show in America. The producer, a tall man in a shiny blue suit, laughed cruelly. Sweetheart, you're not here to win. You're here to make people laugh. The audience snickered as Ari lowered her eyes, but inside, something ancient and powerful was rising. For years, she had lived on the streets after her grandmother passed, surviving on scraps, music, and hope. And today, for the first time, she decided she would not be anyone's joke. What no one knew, not the producers, not the children mocking her, was that Ari carried a secret legacy and a letter in her backpack that could change everything. When she stepped on stage, the world expected a punchline. Instead, they witnessed a miracle that rewrote the rules of who gets to shine. Ari Johnson, a 9-year-old black transgender girl, has been living on the streets of Los Angeles after losing her grandmother, the only person who accepted her identity and taught her music. She's discovered singing as her survival, performing on sidewalks for coins. One day, talent scouts for Stars of Tomorrow approach her, not to celebrate her voice, but to use her as a comic relief for their show. Ari senses the cruelty behind their smiles, but quietly agrees, carrying an old letter from her grandmother that hints at a powerful secret connection to someone inside the television network. The glittering hallways of Stars of Tomorrow smelled like perfume, stage lights, and false promises. 9-year-old Ari Johnson clutched her cracked ukulele to her chest, her bare feet leaving faint dust stains on the glossy marble floor. The other contestants, children in sequined outfits, hair curled to perfection, stared as she walked past. Some whispered, others laughed out loud. Is that a boy or a girl? One girl sneered, tugging her diamond-studded jacket closer. Ari didn't answer. She'd heard worse on the streets. A production assistant guided her toward the waiting area, trying not to look too long at her torn hoodie and the patches sewn on her jeans. Just wait here, sweetie, the woman muttered before rushing away. Across the room, the show's lead producer, Mark Reynolds, watched Ari through narrowed eyes. That's her, he said to his assistant. Perfect. She'll be our comic relief, the final act that gets people talking. His grin was sharp and cruel. He didn't see a child with talent. He saw a joke that could go viral. Ari sat quietly in the corner, strumming a gentle melody. It was the tune her grandmother, Evelyn Johnson, had written years ago, a jazz piece that once filled smoky clubs in Harlem. Evelyn used to tell her, "Music is truth no one can erase, Ari. When words fail, let your song speak." Those words were carved into Ari's heart like scripture. Even after Evelyn's passing, even through the cold nights under the overpass, those words kept her warm. Hey, what's that? One boy mocked, pointing at her ukulele. Looks like trash. It's not trash, Ari said softly, her eyes lifting for the first time. It's my grandmother's. The boy rolled his eyes. Well, your grandma must have been broke too. Laughter rippled through the group. Ari didn't flinch. She just tightened her grip on the ukulele and closed her eyes, replaying Evelyn's voice in her mind. As she watched the other children rehearse, she noticed something strange. Every winner already had a stage cue, lighting direction, and pre-approved script. Every performance was perfectly timed. This wasn't a talent show. It was theater. The underdogs were never meant to win. They were entertainment, background noise for the stars. When Mark called her name, Ari stood up slowly, brushing invisible dust off her sleeves. His voice dripped with fake sweetness. You ready, kid? Don't worry if people laugh. It's all part of the fun. Ari met his gaze. For the first time, he saw a spark, quiet, steady, unshakable. "I'm not here for fun," she said softly. "I'm here to sing." As she walked toward the stage lights, she whispered under her breath, "For you, Grandma." And though no one noticed, the air shifted. The night that was meant to humiliate her was about to make history. The rehearsal room emptied as the evening sun spilled through the dusty backstage window. Ari sat alone on a folding chair, legs swinging, her ukulele resting beside her. From her worn backpack, she pulled out a faded envelope tied with a blue ribbon. The handwriting on the front, "For my little songbird, Ari," was trembling and elegant. Her grandmother, Evelyn Johnson, had given it to her the week before she passed. Until now, Ari had never opened it. With careful fingers, she unfolded the brittle paper. Evelyn's scent, jasmine and old books, seemed to rise from the page. The letter began softly. "My sweet Ari, if you are reading this, I'm no longer there to guide your hands or hum beside your chords. But remember, truth sings louder than fear. I once mentored a man named Daniel Rivers. He was a young, frightened musician who thought the world would never see him for who he truly was. I told him what I tell you now. Show your gift first, then let the truth follow. One day, he will see my granddaughter and remember that promise. Trust your music, child. It will lead you home." Ari's eyes glistened. She read the letter twice, then pressed it to her chest. The name Daniel Rivers echoed in her mind. She'd heard the crew mention that name, the CEO of the network, the man who owned Stars of Tomorrow. Could it be the same person Grandma taught? She folded the letter back into its envelope, just as a deep voice interrupted her thoughts. "Are you supposed to be here, young lady?" Ari turned. Standing before her was a tall man in a gray suit, silver hair neatly combed, a lanyard reading Dr. Daniel Rivers, Executive Director. Her heart pounded. I think you knew my grandmother," she whispered. "Her name was Evelyn Johnson." The man froze. For a long moment, his eyes searched her face, the curve of her jaw, the way her fingers trembled over the instrument. Then his expression softened, almost breaking. "Evelyn?" he said under his breath. "I owe everything to that woman." Ari handed him the letter. He read in silence, his lips tightening as he reached the final line. When he looked up, there were tears in his eyes. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "They're not treating you right. I can stop this." But Ari shook her head. "Please don't. Grandma said to let the truth follow." "I want to show them first." Daniel studied her. This small, fragile child, with eyes full of fire, and felt the same quiet strength that once radiated from Evelyn. Slowly he nodded. "Then I'll make sure the world sees it the way it deserves." As Ari walked toward the stage door, Daniel pulled out his phone and made one call. "Activate the private feed. Record everything. Don't cut." History, he sensed, was about to repeat itself. Only this time, through a little girl who carried Evelyn's spirit in her song. The stage lights blazed hot and blinding, washing the world into gold and shadow. Ari stood alone at the center of it, her small frame swallowed by the grand set of Stars of Tomorrow. The crowd buzzed with excitement, some curious, others mocking, waiting for the funny finale the producers had promised. Backstage, Mark Reynolds whispered to the sound crew, "Kill her mic halfway through. Let the distortion run. I want laughter, not sympathy." His grin was pure malice. Ari adjusted her broken ukulele strap, feeling the splintered wood dig into her shoulder. She didn't look at the audience. Instead, she closed her eyes and inhaled deeply, the way Grandma Evelyn had taught her, slow, steady, like tuning the soul before a song. The host introduced her with a forced smile. "And now, our final contestant, Ari Johnson." The applause was polite but thin, more curiosity than respect. She strummed the first chord. For a heartbeat, the sound was clear and bright. Then, exactly as planned, her microphone screeched with static. The distorted buzz filled the auditorium, followed by giggles and whispers. Mark nodded from the control booth, satisfied. "Cut her mic," he ordered. "Let her finish in silence. The crowd'll eat it up." But Ari didn't stop. Her trembling hands left the ukulele. She stepped forward, voice rising from her chest, soft at first, like a prayer breaking through storm clouds. "Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring." The first few rows quieted, confused. Her unamplified voice floated pure and unguarded through the hall, echoing against velvet curtains and mirrored walls. She sang with the ache of generations. The song Grandma Evelyn had once called the Black National Anthem. Each note carried the weight of those who had been told to sit down, stay silent, disappear. Backstage, Daniel Rivers stood frozen, eyes locked on the monitor. "Patch her feed through every channel," he told the technicians. "Now." The man hesitated. "Sir, the sound—" "Now," Daniel repeated. As Ari reached the chorus, the entire sound system came alive, not through her mic, but through the hidden recording Daniel had ordered moments earlier. The clarity was astonishing. Her voice filled every corner of the building, every television screen tuned to the network's feed. The audience that had laughed seconds ago now sat motionless, their faces illuminated by the soft blue stage lights. "Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us." A woman in the front row covered her mouth, tears glistening. One of the judges, a pop star known for her arrogance, dropped her pen. The children who had mocked Ari backstage now watched in awe, their shame written across their faces. The camera panned close, her dark skin glowing beneath the lights, her small hands trembling, her eyes glistening but unwavering. Every note was defiance. Every word was truth. When she reached the final line, "Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won." There was silence, not the cruel, awkward kind she'd feared, but sacred silence. Then, like a wave breaking, the entire auditorium stood. Applause thundered through the hall. People were crying, cheering, shouting her name. In the control booth, Mark Reynolds' smirk faded into horror. "Who gave the order to broadcast this?" he snapped. Daniel stepped forward behind him, voice low but commanding. "I did. You tried to silence her. Now the whole world's listening." Across the nation, televisions glowed with Ari's image, a barefoot black trans girl singing her truth with nothing but courage and the ghost of her grandmother beside her. In homes, schools, and shelters, people stopped what they were doing. For 3.5 minutes, the country stood still, hearing a voice that no amount of hate could distort. And when the final note faded, it wasn't just applause that filled the air. It was history awakening, one note at a time. The applause shook the building like thunder, wave after wave crashing through the studio. Ari stood frozen in the middle of the stage, the lights glinting off her tears. The crowd's roar was deafening, some clapping, others standing on chairs, shouting her name. It was the kind of ovation that didn't just celebrate a song. It honored a soul that refused to break. From the wings, Dr. Daniel Rivers stepped forward, his heart pounding. The producers tried to stop him, but he brushed past them, his voice echoing across the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, there's something you all need to know." The cheering softened into silence. Ari turned, her eyes wide. "This young girl," Daniel said, motioning toward her, "is Ari Johnson, granddaughter of Evelyn Johnson, the legendary jazz composer who opened doors for Black musicians when no one else would. Evelyn was my mentor. She taught me everything I know about music, truth, and courage. And tonight, her spirit is alive in this child. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Cameras zoomed in on Ari's face. The same strength, the same poise. Daniel continued, his tone hardening. And while her voice was pure, some here tried to silence it. Producer Mark Reynolds ordered her microphone cut, hoping to turn her into a joke. The audience turned toward the booth, faces twisted with outrage. Mark tried to slip out quietly, but the cameras found him. The live feed caught his expression, red, panicked, defeated. Daniel's voice rang clear. You wanted a moment people would talk about Mark. Well, here it is. Security escorted him out as the crowd booed. Ari stood tall, not gloating, just steady, her voice calm when she finally spoke. My grandmother taught me, when they try to drown your truth, sing louder. The audience erupted again, not in pity, but in reverence. In that instant, the little girl who had walked in barefoot became a national symbol, a voice for every child told they were too different to be seen. By the time the show ended, clips of her performance were spreading online. Millions watched her stand, unshaken in the face of cruelty, and saw something they couldn't unsee, the power of truth sung out loud. The weeks following the broadcast were a whirlwind that no one could have predicted. Ari, once a barefoot street performer, now lived in a spacious home filled with light, love, and music. Dr. Daniel Rivers and his husband Thomas officially adopted her, welcoming her not just into their home, but into a world of opportunities her grandmother had always dreamed she would reach. Ari smiled as she unpacked her small bag, the worn ukulele still nestled safely in the corner, a reminder of the journey that had brought her here. Daniel introduced her to the Evelyn Johnson Foundation, a newly created program dedicated to supporting Black and trans youth in music. Ari became the first child ambassador, traveling to underprivileged communities, visiting schools, shelters, and youth centers. Wherever she went, she encouraged children to embrace their voices, their identity, and their talents, no matter how the world tried to dismiss them. Music, she told them, echoing Evelyn's words, is truth no one can erase. Her viral performance had ignited a nationwide movement. The video of Ari singing, "Lift Every Voice and Sing," in defiance of sabotage, reached tens of millions online, inspiring a campaign for inclusion in arts programs across the country. Music schools, community centers, and television programs began implementing policies to ensure that children of all backgrounds, regardless of race, gender identity, or social status, could be celebrated for their talent rather than ridiculed for it. As for Mark Reynolds, his career unraveled entirely. No network would hire him. Public outrage and social media condemnation left him with no choice but to resign, and within months he was reduced to working odd jobs far from the entertainment industry, a stark reminder that cruelty comes with consequences. Meanwhile, Stars of Tomorrow was completely restructured. Ethical guidelines were implemented. Psychologists and social workers were brought in, and diversity became a central mission. The show now highlighted talent without humiliation, a transformation fueled entirely by the courage of one resilient child. 2 years later, Ari, now 11, took the stage at Carnegie Hall. The auditorium was packed with music lovers, philanthropists, and the students she had inspired through the Evelyn Johnson Foundation. She carried her ukulele, restored and polished, but retaining the marks of her journey, and took a deep breath before speaking. "This concert," she began, her voice steady and warm, "is dedicated to every child told they don't belong, every child who was silenced, ignored, or underestimated. Today, I sing for you. The orchestra behind her swelled as Ari's voice soared, blending jazz, gospel, and soul with a maturity far beyond her years. Every note carried the weight of her experience, the lessons from her grandmother, and the resilience forged on the streets. Tears streamed down faces throughout the hall, but Ari remained focused, letting her music speak louder than any words could. As the final chord lingered in the air, she faced the audience and whispered, "True talent doesn't fit in their boxes. It breaks them." The applause was deafening, standing, and unwavering, as if every person there understood the truth behind her words. The lights dimmed, and the camera zoomed in on Ari's face, serene and radiant. Her song echoed across television broadcasts and online streams, a lasting testament to the idea that some voices, once silenced, become symphonies the world can never forget. In homes, schools, and hearts across the nation, children and adults alike were reminded courage, identity, and excellence cannot be contained. And as Ari stepped off the stage that night, she carried with her not only the legacy of Evelyn Johnson, but the hope that every overlooked voice could one day rise, unstoppable, undeniable, and unforgettable.